Hello everyone, Gabriel Carrillo from the FUSD EdTech Department, and today we have another video. This time we're going to be doing the AverVision document camera software. So those of you at schools that have the AverMedia type of document camera, and it's either the one with the flexible arm or the one with the straight arm, either one of those two they both use the same software. So either one of those, if either one of those applies to you, then this is the video for you if you want to learn about the software. So the name of the software that we're going to be doing, sorry about that. Let's go back a little bit and let's make sure that you have watched our first video on actual DocCam setup. If you haven't seen that video yet, make sure you do that. That way you can properly get your document camera set up and working on your computer and recognized by your computer. That way you can actually run the software and use it. If you haven't done that, you need to do that before watching this video. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the software. And here, up on the top right hand corner, is the icon for the software. It's called AverVision. If you don't have it on your desktop, you can always go down here to your Windows Start button and type in Aver, A-V-E-R, and it should show up. And there it is our first result. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of there and go back here to our icon and double click it to open the software. Now make sure that your document camera is turned on. Ours is already on and ready to go, so it's going to start making some noises and waking up because the program is saying, hey, we're going to use you. You need to make sure that you're ready to go. And it's going to get the camera actually powered on. It's going to get the any LED lights that you might have switched on or off, and making sure that everything's going to start getting in focus in time. So, with that being said, we are ready to roll. There is our image. And if I quickly run my hand across, you can see that the image is live. Perfect. That's exactly what I want here. And you will notice that it did not open up to full screen. What it did, it is opened up to basically a window. If you want to expand that, go ahead and click on that full screen button, just like with any other program on Windows, and you now have full screen mode. Perfect. Now, on the top left-hand corner, this is our default floating toolbar. This toolbar comes in handy, and this is what actually makes your document camera work without you ever having to touch the document camera. So if you need to focus, not change the image, but if you need to take a picture of the image or record the image, you don't have to run back to your document camera to do that. It all can be done from the software. So if you are at the front of the board, whether it be a Promethean or a smartboard, you can do it directly from the board. If you're controlling your computer via Chrome Remote Desktop with a mobile device, and you can do that on there as well. So if you would like to kind of get this menu out of the way, because we are losing a little bit of image here, you can click on that little triangle to the left that says close, and what it does is it actually collapses all those menus and all the settings and all that. If you want to pull it back up, all you got to do is open it, and because it is a floating toolbar, you can basically place this anywhere you'd like. All right, for the sake of this, I'm just going to go ahead and prop it up here on the top left hand corner where it was, and let's go over kind of our settings and everything that we can basically do here from the computer. Instead of starting with the document camera settings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the advanced settings first and foremost, and then I'll jump back over here and to the rest of them. So if I go to the advanced settings, you can record from your document camera, and you can choose what type of recording quality you want. The higher the number, the XGA, the clearer the recording is going to be, the more fluid it's going to be. However, the larger the file is going to be. So keep that in mind. For capture, which we'll go over as well, you could do a single or a continuous or a high quality capture. Don't worry about this too much. We'll get into that later. And then whenever you record or take captures, where do you want them to be saved? I'm going to go ahead and change this right now to my videos. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in my videos for default. And you can also choose a naming scheme. This is telling you, hey, this is what I'm going to save your images as. I'm going to put the last 2 digits of the year, the month, the date, the hour, the minute, and the second, and then I'll start in sequence with 00001, and then it'll continue on from there. So I'm going to go ahead and leave those changes, and now we can get into our document camera settings. So if I hover my mouse over, let me try it one more time, you can see that the dot cam settings comes up, and then if I click on it, I get all these extra settings. Okay, so before we begin, let's put something under there. So I'm going to put this big bad alligator right there. Perfect. I've got him under there. It's projecting. I'm talking about this with my students and so on and so forth. Now, if I need to zoom in, instead of running back to the document camera, wherever it may be in the classroom, I could just basically zoom in from here. This auto image is set. I would highly suggest that you leave that on. Don't toggle that one off. And you'll be surprised at how tight you can actually zoom in here and how clear the image is actually. I can hear the camera still working. It's doing its thing. The closer you zoom in, the more time it's going to take for that camera to make sure that it focuses correctly. And then if I need to zoom out, I could do one of two things. I can click this over and over. And I don't know if you noticed, but on the bottom right hand corner here, I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to zoom out a couple times. You'll see that it's telling me how much I'm zoomed in. I can click over and over and over until I get to my 1, which is basically the standard. Or, even better, if I click this zoom reset button, it'll automatically take me back to 1 without having to click over and over. Pretty cool, right? I know. All right, now that we've got the zoom, we can adjust the brightness. So right now it's set to, what was that, 21. Depending on the brightness of your room, depending on any windows that you may have on, and open, and lights that you may have on, you can adjust this based on your needs. Okay, so I'm going to leave it back at 21. Autofocus, whatever you put under there, if you want it to autofocus, just click that one time and it'll do its thing. It might take a couple seconds, but it will focus to the best of its ability. You can add effects like a black and white. Look at that, pretty cool. This really doesn't work well with my stomach, but you could do a negative or your basic color one. If you wanted to freeze the image, so let's say that I'm working on a worksheet with my students, or I don't want to be tied to the document camera. I want to walk around the room freely, but I still want that image to be up there. I can freeze the image. So as of right now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to move this guy out of the way, and he's out. He's gone. He took off. That's because we're in live. Our document camera is in what I would, I guess, call live mode. But if I freeze it by clicking on this freeze button, boom, I just took that alligator away. He's no longer under the document camera, but because I froze the image, the students, my audience, are still seeing that. So I can now walk around the room, whether it be with a worksheet or with this plush toy alligator, and I can talk about it. And instead of being tied to the document camera, I can walk around freely, monitor, and use proximity to my advantage in the classroom. If I unfreeze it, you will notice that it goes back to just the regular desktop of the desk that I'm working on without the alligator watch. Boom, gone. That's because, remember, I went back to live mode and I took him out from under. So let's try it one more time. Let's get him straight. Perfect. There we go. All right, so now that's your freeze. Your rotate is, let's say that you need to change the orientation of the image. You just basically click on that and it'll rotate it 180 degrees. This infinite, it's kind of like an infinite cloner. We're not going to play around with that right now, but this macro, anyone who does any photography knows that macro photography deals with very fine detail, but at the expense of taking more time to focus, because it's trying to get the absolute best clarity. It's getting the lighting, the brightness, and all that done for you. And because of that, it will take quite some time to focus. Look at how beautiful that is, though. Wow. Let's get out of macro. So I unchecked macro, and it's going to take a little while to unmacrotize, I guess, if you want to call it that. Let's get out of here. All right, so those are our, oh, and the image enhancer, I forgot to talk about this. The image enhance is on, so it'll make sure that the color and everything is good. And then if you notice that when I clicked on the image enhance, it actually turned the macro off for us. So that is our basic DocCam settings. All right, so we played around with some settings in here. Now let's kind of go to what they all mean. So if I click on this start recording, I will have a box populate. And remember, in the settings, I chose to save any recordings and pictures to this videos directory. So, and then there's the year and so on and so forth. And I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now it's actually recording a video. So now I can talk about the alligator, the underside of him. Look at that. Oh, wow. No wonder he's sick. Look, he's got something on his stomach there. His abdomen, if we want to be correct about it. Awesome. So we're talking about the alligator. We're going over the anatomy, and we're talking about, he is indeed a reptile and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm done. If I click on the record button one more time, it's going to ask me to stop recording. Indeed, it will stop recording. And if I go over here to my image or video playback, kind of like my gallery, look at that. And now it's actually recording a video. So now I can talk about the alligator, the underside of him. Look at that. Oh. Pretty cool, right? You can actually start recording your lessons. You have a kiddo who's out and missed maybe something that you need to really make sure that he or she is up to date on. You can host this video on your website. You can make it available to your students via Google Classroom, Google Drive, any other sharing service, and you now have your students now have access to whatever it is that you want them to have access to. So that's our recording. Image capture is just what it sounds like. It's an image capture. I can take a real quick capture of the image. I'm sorry, image of capture of, yeah, that was right. Whatever, I got it. And there it is. And it pulls up automatically, and you will know. Some people might think like, hey, is this my real document camera or is this a picture? Well, because it indeed has the red title with the file name, you can tell that that's the actual image. I'm going to go ahead and save that image, and it's going to go right to that videos folder automatically. And you can now do what you want to with that image. So, but imagine this. Imagine not just necessarily using your document camera as a digital overhead projector. Imagine taking pictures like this. Whoops, let me get him back under there. And taking those images and putting them into your PowerPoints, putting them into your Active Inspire lessons, putting them into your flip charts and or your smart notebook lessons, or your Google Slides presentation, or your Prezis, or whatever tool that you use. Imagine putting those in there, and now they become objects in that particular software, which you can manipulate, do whatever you want with, add hyperlinks and sounds and video and all that. So now you're taking that document camera to the next level, which is something that we really push and preach in our department. So remember, it's a great digital overhead projector, but it's more than that. Okay, so that's our image. I'm going to go back to this recording under our advanced settings. I told you that we were going to do this continuous capture and talk about it a little bit later. This is really cool. Now, when you do continuous capture, there's this time and interval, and here's what this means. A continuous capture means I want this to record or to take pictures for the next 40 minutes every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds it's going to take a picture, a capture of whatever I have under there for every 5 seconds for the next 40 minutes, and it's going to save it here. Okay, so if I do that, I might have the alligator right here, and it took a picture, and then I might move it over here, and it took a picture, I believe so. And I might just have him slowly moving across my desktop, and all the meanwhile it's taking a picture every 5 seconds for whatever allotted time that I wanted it to. Now, you're not going to want to literally stand there and do this for 40 minutes, but an example of how this might actually work is an example of how this might actually work. I'm going to have him moonwalking actually. Is in kindergarten. Don't you guys talk about chrysalis, transformation, metamorphosis to a butterfly? Yeah, you do. If you happen to have, get your hands on some chrysalis in an enclosure or some caterpillars, and you know that they're going to change to a chrysalis, or that chrysalis is going to eventually go into that butterfly state, and you know that's going to happen over the weekend, why not set this up so that it takes pictures every 30 seconds or so for the next, and you can go up to 72 hours. And that way, on Monday when you come back, you have documentation and pictures of what actually happened. So check this out. There it is. That thing is moving slowly across. So I only took a couple of pictures of it, but you could see, oh, here it is. An example of how this might actually work. I'm going to have, oh, never mind. But you could see how that can really come in handy. So that's your continuous capture. All right, and then print. This print will print whatever you have under there. Let's say that you have a note home, a note from a student or from a parent that comes to you, and you don't necessarily believe that the parent wrote it. You think that the student might just try to get one over on you. You can put it under the document camera, take an image of it, or print it, and you now have documentation, and you know, do whatever you need to, or do whatever you need to with your admin, or you have a really cool project or what have you, you can print it as well. The advanced settings we kind of played around with. We're not going to go into our network settings. However, we are, there you are. We are going to go into kind of our tools, our line colors in that line tool. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a thickness, and I'm going to choose a color. I'm going to go with red. Red, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and draw, say, okay guys, this is the eyes. I'm sorry, these are the eyes here of the alligator. Perfect. Let's do black and say, okay, here are his arms, appendages, flippers, whatever you want to call them. You know what? I'm going to have to take a second here. That is actually pretty good on my part. Kudos to me for tracing that. Great job, Korea. And you can actually annotate on top of this. Now, if you wanted to erase what you did, you can choose the eraser, choose the thickness of the eraser, and get it all in one shot. Perfect. You can also use the straight line tool. Okay, so if I wanted to draw a straight line and maybe add some text, and I don't want it to be 18, I want it to be like 24, and I want this to pop in aqua. So I'm going to put my text box right here, and I'm going to write the word I. Whoops. And I now have an annotation, some text on top. Very cool feature. So now we just learned a little bit about the line, or freehand draw. The line tool, you can also put some shapes on top. So I'm going to go ahead and cover. Let's go red on red. And I'm going to go ahead and cover this part of him. And I can ask the students what part of the alligator am I covering. I can draw an ellipse with it, which is nothing more than a fancy circle of some sort. And you get the idea. You can play around with stuff and do all that. If you want to erase everything, you can certainly try erasing everything, or if you click delete all, it deletes all annotations that you put on top. Now, I will say one thing. Whoops, I clicked the wrong tool. I will say one thing. If you're annotating, tracing, labeling, doing all that good stuff, and just remember that you are dealing with a live video, I'm sorry, a live session on your document camera. So if I go under here and accidentally move this, look what happens. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. The annotations stay there, however, they do not follow. Oh, there we go. And they do not necessarily follow the object when you move it out. Okay, so just be aware of that. Be aware of that. Okay, and then this region capture. This region capture is pretty cool. I'm going to throw this guy on his side right here. And this region capture allows me to basically take an image capture of that particular region, and I'm going to name it side. And now, if I go to my gallery, instead of having the entire desk as the background, I now just have the alligator with minimal distractions around. Pretty cool, right? Absolutely. You can do some awesome stuff with your document camera and the software, and even better when you integrate the two things. When you integrate the document camera, its software, and another tool like ActiveInspire or Smart Notebook software, you can actually build some really cool lessons. You're taking two softwares and devices, and you're actually putting them together to make a polished product. So that's basically it for our AverVision AverMedia DocCam and its software. Please play around with it, get to know it, use it. Use it on a daily basis. Use it with your students. Use it before your students come in to take image captures and put them into your lessons and talk about them. And oh, one more thing I forgot to add. Look at that. I just happen to have a copy of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And I don't know about you, but let me see here. Let me try to get this. There's some nasty glare coming in. There's some nasty glare towards the bottom here. Look at that. Some of the words might not be able to be recognized or seen. So lucky for us, each document camera came with a non-glare or anti-glare sheet in the box. So if you can get your hands on this, if you can find the box and get your hands on this, look at the magic that this thing provides us with. Look at that. So if you have a laminated worksheet that you're working on, or something that's just high gloss, and you don't want your students being blinded by what you have on there, look at that. Glare, no glare. Glare, no glare. Glare, no glare. Glare, no glare. You get the picture. This helps out tremendously in the classroom. Tremendously. So once again, if you can get your hands on this, it is in the box. It should be in a protective sleeve that actually has a sticker labeled anti-glare sheet. Do not discard. Use it, don't lose it. And one more time, play around with it, get to know it. And if you have any questions at any point, please get in contact with the EdTech department. We will be more than happy to help you out, set you up for training before school, during your prep, or after school, or even better, come in to do a sample lesson with your class using the DocCam. That way you can see it in action and kind of get some ideas on how to use this with your students. EdTech Department for the Florence Unified School District signing off. Thanking you for watching this video, and have a great day.